What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the Whiskey Shed. Now, it's been a while since I've done a whiskey review. My apologies for that, but I have something brand new from Jameson here. This is going to be a new core release. This is Jameson Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey. It's the first time in over 60 years that single pot still has appeared on a bottle of Jameson. So let's jump in and take a look. Okay, so as always, a little bit about the bottle before we jump into the nosing and tasting. Now, I'm not going to get super in-depth into the history. I'm going to give you the speed notes or the cliff notes because I've already covered the history of Jameson whiskey in my review of Jameson Irish whiskey, and I've covered the Bow Street Distillery and all that good stuff. So, what we're going to talk about is why it's significant that single pot still Irish whiskey is back on the label. So, very, very briefly, the late 1800s, early 19th century, Irish whiskey, or Ireland, was the centre of whiskey production in the world, and Irish single pot still whiskey was the premium whiskey on the planet, and it was on the shelves next to cognac and champagne, drunk by sultans and kings and royalty and the well-to-do. The average person couldn't drink single pot still Irish whiskey. Now, how did single pot still Irish whiskey come about? Well, the Irish whiskey industry was so massive that the British decided to tax malted barley in order to get a share of the profits. So in order to reduce the tax burden, the Irish distillers added in unmalted barley into the mix, and that gave rise to this unique Irish style, originally known as pure pot still whiskey, or now known as single pot still whiskey. And you can only call it single pot still whiskey if it is produced in Ireland and it has malted and unmalted barley in the mash. So, why is it significant that it's back on Jameson? Well, up until around the 1960s, early 1960s, all Jameson would have been pure pot still or single pot still whiskey. Like I said, it was the premium whiskey in the world, but the Irish whiskey industry absolutely collapsed. I won't get into the why and the hows and the what fors, but basically it completely collapsed. All the Irish distillers got together, ended up in Middleton and Cork, decided to back Jameson. Jameson became a blended Irish whiskey. Jameson didn't actually bottle their first whiskey until 1970. Before that, independent bottlers would have bought this distillate from Jameson. It would have been Jameson on the bottle, and then bottled by is what you would have seen. I'll roll in a couple of pictures of some bottles in a local pub in the town where I'm from, and you can see the kind of idea, and it would have been all pure pot still Irish whiskey. But after the collapse of the whiskey industry, all that stuff happened. Irish whiskey was almost completely gone. Jameson became a blended whiskey, and now it's back as a pure pot still whiskey. So this would have been what Jameson originally was, a single pot still Irish whiskey, and now they have a new core release that is a single pot still Irish whiskey. This one is a 5 oak cask release. So let's get into it. I'm out of breath after that. I think I've covered just about everything as fast as I could. Let's get into the whiskey. Okay, so that was a super abridged version of history. It mightn't even have been in chronological order, but you guys get the idea. Jameson is back as a single pot still whiskey as it originally was. Now, this is a new core release, so this is going to be available readily, I suppose. The first release is 3,000 bottles, and it's an Irish-only release. I'm not sure will this become a worldwide release, and I'll get into that in a second. It's a 5 cask, or it's the 5 oak cask release is what they're calling this now. So we have ex-bourbon barrels, ex-sherry barrels, we have virgin American oak, virgin European oak, and virgin Irish oak. Now, Irish oak is hard enough to come by. There's not that much Irish oak left in Ireland. Ireland has been heavily deforested, so it's going to be rare enough to have Irish oak casks. So even though this is going to be a core release, I'm not sure how much Irish oak they can actually get their hands on and whether it will actually become a worldwide release, but I imagine it will if it's going to be a staple in the Jameson catalogue now. So it'll be interesting to see whether they can keep up that Irish oak, but that remains to be seen. Now, it's bottled at 46% ABV. It's non-chill filtered. It's a non-age statement as well. But I would imagine, I'm going to take a punt and say somewhere in and around 7 years old would be some of the whiskey in this. So without further ado, let's get it in the glass and get some nosing and tasting done. Okay, so it's in the glass. I forgot the cork pop, so we'll do a post cork pop. Yes, we do have a cork pop. It's been a while since I made a video, so I have forgotten the tradition, but it's in the glass now, so let's get nosing and tasting. So like I said, non-age statement, but it is 46% ABV. It's non-chill filtered, and we have those 5 oak casks, those 5 different types of casks in this, and it is pure pot still Irish whiskey as well. So on the nose. So on the nose, for me, it's very fruity. The first time I tried some of this. For me, it reminded me really strongly of Powers 3 Swallow, Powers John's Lane. It's really like Powers John's Lane, but without that leathery note. So it's fruity. It has a lovely zesty fruitiness to it. You can get the caramel. You can get the bourbon influence. So you get that vanilla. You get the caramel. You can get the sherry casks in it, so the dark fruits are in here. The pot still spice is all in there. It's actually really nice. It's a lovely complex whiskey, this, and it's getting better as I'm going down through the bottle. But for me, it's more towards Powers than it is towards Jameson. That's just what I'm getting from it. Think Powers John's Lane without the leathery note, but a bit more complexity to it. Yeah, so on the nose, first up, I get a really zesty fruitiness. Then I get that vanilla and caramel from what you'd expect from the bourbon casks. And the sherry cask is all in there, those dark fruits. And you get that lovely pot still spice that you get from Irish single pot still. It's just that lovely kind of greeny, kind of peppery, spicy baking spice note. All there. So lovely. Very, very nice on the nose, I have to say. So on the palate. Very nice. So on the palate is actually different to the nose. I get dark chocolate, almost coffee on the palate, a little bit of licorice. I'm getting those fruits then. It has a lovely honeyed sweetness, a little bit of peppery heat I'm getting from it. Not too much, it's not ruining the whiskey or anything like that. But yeah, it's more dark chocolate, coffee, then a honeyed sweetness, then opening up into those fruits on the palate. Very, very nice. Little bit of hint of the sherry and that lovely oily viscosity you get from Irish single pot still. And those lovely spices are in there as well. So very, very nice. Slightly different on the palate, or a bit different on the palate than on the nose, which is interesting. You get the real fruitiness on the nose and you get a kind of a dark chocolate kind of coffee on the palate. So, as always, we'll leave it open up for about 10 minutes now. We'll come back and see if I can get anything else out of this. Okay, so we let it sit for about 10 minutes, let it open up. Let's see if we can get anything else from this. So it's still a very fruity whiskey. That's what I'm getting, that zesty fruitiness that I kind of do associate with Powers. Still there. Bit sweeter now, there's a bit more toffee and vanilla and fudge kind of to the forefront. Maybe getting a bit more of the bourbon influence. Those dark fruits are there from the sherry, definitely. Yeah, very, very nice. And the pot still spices are all in there. I think pot still Irish whiskey is my favourite whiskey. Some of the bourbons are a good close second. I do like a good bourbon. But yeah, single pot still Irish whiskey is very, very nice. I reckon it's about, I'm going to take a guess at about 7 years old. I think when pot still Irish whiskey is too young, it's not nice. You have to let it get to about 7 years and above, then it really starts to come into its own and you get all those lovely spices and it kind of settles down a bit. But yeah, think of a fruity, sherry, bourbon influence in this whiskey, kind of like Powers. There is a hint of Jameson in there. But very, very nice indeed. Now on the palate. Yeah, I think it's a lot more dark chocolate now to the forefront again. It's a bit bigger and bolder this time. Lovely honey sweetness on the side. It kind of bursts into a lovely sweetness, finishing with some fruity notes, a little bit of maybe cracked black pepper, something like that. Very, very nice. I have to say this is lovely. It has that lovely oily viscosity that you get from single pot still whiskey. That mouth coating feel. Very, very nice indeed. Okay guys, so there we go. And for what it's worth, that's been my review of Jameson Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey 5 Oak Cask released, a new core release from Jameson Whiskey. I think it is nearly sold out everywhere. Like I said, I got this at the Middleton Distillery itself. They had a good few bottles down there when I was down there, but I think most of the online shops I've seen now, it's sold out. If you guys aren't in Ireland and you want to get your hands on a bottle of this, you will get it through shops like the Celtic Whiskey Store and stuff. They ship worldwide, so you will be able to get yourself hands on a bottle. Retail value, €60 is what it's going for now, so that's in around the same price as a Powers John's Lane. I would prefer this to Powers John's Lane. I love Powers John's Lane. I think this has a little bit more complexity to it. There's a bit more definitely going on with this, especially with the Irish oak and the European oak in there as well. So yeah, very, very nice. Glad to see that it's going to be a core release. This is going to become a staple for the Jameson brand. And yeah, very nice indeed. I do highly recommend it. So hope you guys have enjoyed that. Guys, give it a thumbs up if you have. Let me know, have you tried it? Are you going to try it? Are you looking forward to trying it? Is it your first time hearing about it? And yeah, until the next one, guys, hopefully it won't be as long as it took me to make this video. But yeah, slide from off my cara. I shall see you in the next one. Take it easy. Yeah, dark chocolate and coffee and fruit and honey and that pot still spice. Very, very nice.